And welcome to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. Everybody on this call is either among the best in the business or striving to be among the best mortgage professionals in the business. I'm proud to always do these Tuesday calls. My name is Dave Savage, CEO of Mortgage Coach. Today, as our guest, we have Chris Smith for the second time. What's up, Chris?
What's up, man? Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. You crushed it on your Facebook message from a few weeks ago, and super appreciate you coming back to take it to the next level. Last time we talked about how to generate leads, primarily Facebook, but we just talked about digital, and today we're going to talk about conversion. So, hey, Chris, I'm going to do a little bit of setting the table and follow up from last week, and then I'll bring you back in.
Sounds good.
All right. So hey, last week I interviewed Josh Meadows. Josh is, for those of you who don't know him, one of the country's most successful loan officers. His team did a little over 600 loans last year for $280 million. Their goal is 1,000 loans this year. So, I mean, these guys are a powerhouse. And the theme to the call is, hey, Josh, what are you doing to prepare for the spring home buying season? And Josh, he kicked off the call by just saying, hey, let's look at the market realities. Rates are higher, highest they've been in 2 years. Predictions are they're going to go up a little bit more. The biggest challenge by far is the lack of inventory. When you look at Steve Harney's Bridge Builder slides here, I mean, it's just like, what? I mean, it dropped off a cliff. So inventory is a big struggle. So the two big challenges in the marketplace are just a little higher interest rates. And what's that creating? You're seeing big banks drop rates to buy market. You're seeing everybody, because refis are gone. It's like everybody's competing for loans. So rate shopping is high, competition is up. So what's Josh doing? Josh, he talked about all the things that he's doing, but he's making sure every family gets his best presentation. And when you hear from Chris, we're going to talk about just structured conversations that create conversion. So everybody needs to get the best conversion possible. Josh went through, what is the way that he is sending the rate quote? How is he delivering options? Is it just a shout out? He's talking about how he's delivering it with a mobile app, making sure that on that mobile app there's graphs and charts, really laying out not just the monthly payment, but the savings or the pain over time. Hey, Chris, after checking out your book, again, it's so impressive. I mean, your framework for conversion is the best I've seen, but make note that everybody on the Mortgage Coach team, I mean, they are really well positioned to be able to say, hey, I heard you, and not only, here's the monthly difference, and then here's the difference over time, so they can really paint kind of a life-changing picture. So I just wanted to make sure to make note of that with you, FYI.
Sure.
Also, Mortgage Coach can add a video to it, so you can literally, go back and recap the key points, graphs and charts over time, video, and at the end of the day, we want to make it so that the family, whether they're in a coffee shop looking at renting versus buying, whether they're coming into your office and they're making a decision, or whether you're meeting them in a coffee shop, we're just netting it out for you. So Mortgage Coach members, if you missed last week's call, it's in the YouTube channel, check it out. Also, wanted to shine a light on the fact that I've been doing these quick hit interviews on Skype. So I basically have Josh's 11-minute how to reduce rate shopping and crush your competition in 11 minutes. And I also interviewed Danny Harani. If you have not watched this video, again, #5 loan officer in America, and he's talking actually about how he is helping agents get listings, how he's painting a picture to a move-up buyer, saying, hey, move-up buyer, moving up makes a lot of sense, and he's teaming up with top agents to actually create listings. So if you did not watch that, 10-minute, 25-second video with Danny on how to help a realtor get a move-up listing, I mean, check it out. So, Chris, it's time for the big show, brother. You ready to walk us through your process and help us get better conversion?
Definitely ready. And I don't know if my screen's showing or if yours is. I'm ready when you are. And I actually had a little data for you. You were showing some of the beautiful charts that your app provides. And in the marketing part of my book, there was a stat that I researched that people process visuals 60,000 times faster than words.
Say again, 60,000 times?
Our brains, the ability to see and recognize an object versus reading that same word, and it's hard to quantify because it all happens so quick in our brain. But yeah, human beings can process visuals about 60,000 times faster than words. So when I saw kind of the quick slide that you showed, I didn't see the numbers. I saw the charts. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, hey, that is the magic, is whenever you could take something and make it graphical. The other word, a picture, I think it has a million words.
Exactly.
A lot of ways to put it, but that's powerful. Thanks. I got a new one.
Cool. Well, I'm going to get started, and I appreciate you having me on, Dave. I'm really glad there's a big audience on. I know thousands of people watch the replays as well. And I wanted to just quickly talk about my background, kind of how I wrote the conversion code, how I cracked the conversion code. I spent a long time in boiler rooms. So I was classically trained in sales, Alec Baldwin, kind of Glenn Ross style, with these hard-ass sales coaches that were all about the numbers and the dials and the talk time and the credit pulls and the loans written and the books back. And I wanted to just start and give people a little bit of a sense of my background and some of the early lessons I learned that I never forgot, because the first guy I worked for and did inside sales and basically lead conversion for was this guy named Lou Pearlman. And he discovered NSYNC, he discovered the Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. But what people didn't know is he had a boiler room in Orlando where we would call thousands of leads that wanted to be famous too. And he would have them buy event vacations where they'd come to Orlando 3 days, 2 nights, Marriott World Center, and they would get to sing for a record label or maybe walk the runway for a modeling agency. And at Lou Pearlman's company, he had the most ridiculous sales coaches in the world. These guys were quite literally arrested in the 1980s for telemarketing fraud. They had really gotten a little too good, if you will, at scripts and selling. And at this point in their career, when I worked there in the early 2000s, they had become as ethical as they were ever going to be. And I learned a lot of lessons that I then went out and kind of applied for good. Lou Pearlman died recently in jail as a part of a Ponzi scheme. So when I say I started in the boiler rooms, this really was that. But the lesson I never forgot from Lou Pearlman's coach was twofold. He came in on our first day and he drew this up on the whiteboard, on the chalkboard. And he said, we try to make sales complicated. We try to make it complex with all the scripts and all the tools and all the widgets and all the CRMs. But the reality is that sales is very simple. There's a science. And your job in sales is to get people more emotionally bought in than the price during the time you have their attention. And that's the only way you're going to close anybody. And so I always thought about that drawing for the rest of my career because, as you guys know, you get on the call with somebody, a conversation is what leads to a customer. And so it takes time to build up to that point. So a lot of the techniques I'll teach you guys today are just how to extend the call. When people are rate shopping, when there's movement in the market, when you don't have the lowest rates, guess what you have to do? You have to keep people on the phone for as long as possible. Because I'll give you guys breaking news. People don't want to talk to any salespeople, much less two. So if they have a long, good conversation with one, they're not waiting on the next call. They don't even want to talk to one. That's a competitive advantage. They think they want to shop until they understand what it really means to do an app over the phone. And then they don't want to do another one because it takes too long if you do it right. Build rapport, get them to like you. But I asked my coach, I said, as a new person in sales, how do I get people more excited than the cost? And he drew this up on the board, which I never forgot. He said, Chris, the key to sales is actually just enthusiasm. You don't have to know anything about the product or the process. You just need to be enthusiastic. Trust me. Because, and he drew a bracket around IASM. I never forgot that. I am sold myself. The best salespeople have this contagious passion for the product they sell. And ultimately, the only thing you ever really sell is yourself. But as you're going to learn in a second, when you're in the boiler room, when you're on the phone, when you have a mortgage lead that clicked on a button with a dancing alien and then all of a sudden became a lead that got sent to your desk, the most important thing is enthusiasm and tone. Your passion comes through the phone or not. I don't know if you've ever gotten a call from a telemarketer yourself, and they're like, you know, hey, Dave, how's it going? Wanted to call and tell you about this really cool thing we're doing. It doesn't matter. You could be giving $1 million bills out for free, and I will hang up on you, and I will tell you to get you off my list if I don't hear that you're sold yourself. Once I left Lou Pearlman's company, I couldn't take it. It was a little too sleazy. I ended up going and working for this gentleman. His name is Dan Gilbert. A lot of you are probably going to know who he is. He started Quicken Loans. He owns the Cavs. The way I like to put it is that's LeBron James's boss. And so my second job in the boiler room was in Cleveland, Ohio, calling thousands and thousands of mortgage leads and turning them into closings. It was the first time in my career I made 6 figures. And I learned so much during my time at Quicken Loans, a lot of which I'll talk about in a minute. But the thing I never forgot that I learned from Dan Gilbert during our orientation was this simple concept of human communication. He drew this up on the board and he basically said, what you guys have to remember when you're on the phone with people is that you're actually missing the most important part of communication as a human, body language. And when you look at that chart and you go, okay, if I'm not belly to belly at Starbucks, if I'm not at the bank and the person's not coming to see me, if I'm a virtual company and I'm doing all my lead gen over the phone, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm missing the most important part of communication. So what becomes the most important thing next? Well, what everybody thinks is the script. I'm going to talk about a script today. I'm sure Dave's interviewed other people that have great scripts. But the scripts don't mean anything. What matters is your tone. You guys have heard motion creates emotion. If you don't sound trustworthy and honest and sharp and excited and personable, it doesn't matter what you say. And the reason that was important for Dan Gilbert to share in front of a room of hundreds of new bankers is because he wanted to make more money. So when you go back, yeah, the guys will teach you the words and you'll eventually learn what APR means and what PMI means. But if you've got an enthusiastic tone out of the gates, you can crush it in any sales job. I wrote more loans in my first 5 days than most people wrote in 50 days. And I didn't even know what a loan was. I didn't even know what APR was. I didn't even know what PMI was. You know what I knew? I knew how to get people more excited emotionally than the cost of doing business with me and then how to close them. And I did it through an enthusiastic tone. Everybody wants the script. Cool shot there. That my son is 10 years old, to give you guys some context. And one of the fun things about working at Quicken and them owning the Cavs is when you write a lot of loans, you get to sit courtside at a lot of games. And again, my son is 10 for some context there. So I was in the boiler room a long time ago. He's not even 1 in that picture. So today, I own a company called Curator, and we help people generate and convert leads. And today I'm going to talk about the conversion part. But when you work with our company, this is the kind of feedback that we get. I grew my business 4X. And these are already successful people. This is a guy like Dustin Oldfather, 62 million in sales volume as a realtor and went to over 100 million. And the only change he made was hiring our company. And the reason for that is we don't just care about lead generation, we obsess about lead conversion. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. It's what I call STS sales. If you guys have a pen and paper, grab it right now, because you're going to want to take notes. What we're looking for as a company and as a banker and as a team is called the highest conversion rate possible. You're not going to change lead conversion. You're not going to all of a sudden reinvent the wheel and start converting 50% of internet leads. But what you do want to focus on is having the highest conversion rate possible, which is what I'm going to teach you guys today. And the way that you do that is you have to commit to 3 simple things: speed, tenacity, and using a script. If you're not fast, if you're not frequent, and if you don't know what you're going to freaking say, you're never going to convert internet leads at the highest rate possible. And I'm going to give you guys some data to quantify each of these buckets, but I'm going to spend most of my time on the script itself. Here's why speed and...
Chris?
Yes, sir. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, no problem. Hey, I want to jump in. So first of all, Chris, our community is, well, we have a lot of folks that are hybrid, that are working Zillow leads, that are working online leads. I would say that's a small percent. Most of our folks are getting realtor referrals. And I just want to shout out to everyone right now that's listening to this and going, oh, I don't do online leads. Folks, everything Chris is teaching you will help you convert every lead, you get more. And not only everything that he's teaching you, it'll help you convert realtors to give you more referrals. So I just want to make sure that anybody's on this call that's like, oh, I don't do online leads, I don't do consumer direct. Guys, get your pencil out. Take notes. I've read his book. I've listened to his audio reports. I sell to the CEO. I could easily go, oh, this isn't for me. I got great takeaways that are going to help me get meetings with CEOs and drive a 6-month sales process or a 3-month sales process. So please keep your minds open. And Chris, just wanted to make that note, and also wanted to make sure our audience engaged, even though online leads may not be our biggest amount.
Yeah, what happens when you do a great job is you get leads from all over the place. I mean, we're an internet marketing company for a living, and 33% of our leads come from referrals, and 33% of our leads come from traveling. So I get that. If you have a job that involves talking on the phone to humans, I think I'm going to help you with these tactics. So I do appreciate you clarify that. What I say in the book is every lead is an internet lead. I don't care if they opted in through your funnel. Their expectations of your service has changed because of the internet, even if they're not an internet lead.
Absolutely, and I would just take that one step further, everyone. The internet means the mobile device. And again, I don't want to go on a rant on that right now, but the best salespeople, they're using their mobile device, and they're getting their customers and families to engage in a full sales experience. So keep it rocking, brother. I just wanted to lay that out.
Cool. Yeah, and here's why a lot of this matters. This is an interesting set of data that I'm sure would be comparable in real estate or mortgage. Before the mobile revolution that Dave's talking about, before the social revolution, the Zillow revolution, if you will, this is a screenshot of how many real estate leads were generated online in 2011 versus how many homes were sold. So this would have been the golden era. This would have been when more leads that you got worked with you and became a customer than not. But watch what happens over a 3-year period. Over only a 3-year period, there became over 40 million leads, and the number of homes that sold didn't change a lot. And so this is the new challenge. This is the new reality. Think about how many people opt in to Lending Tree and Bankrate and Lower My Bills and Rocket Mortgage, and they go to their local credit union's website. So what you're trying to do, and what I'm teaching with STS, is how do we find these needles in the haystack? Because they're there. But one of the keys is not wasting your time and having great scripts that pull out the green dots and avoid the red dots. So let's start with speed. And this is something that I think is interesting. When you get a new lead, you have to pretend that nothing else in the entire universe matters, and you've got to get that lead on the phone as soon as you can, because the impact of speed to response on lead conversion is dramatic. There's a 100x decrease in lead conversion between minute 5 and minute 30. Think about that. There's people listening right now that they don't even call their leads back the same day. There's actually a study done by Salesforce, 47% of leads never get called ever. And when they actually surveyed the companies that are committed to responding, who do respond every time, the median response time was over 3 hours. So if I'm investing in systems and people and processes, the place I'm starting is speed to response. This was a stat that came out from HubSpot recently, and this was something that we were always taught at Lou Pearlman's company and at Quicken Loans as well. 50% of people go with the first person they speak to. So you don't even have to be the best as long as you're the first. So you've got to put yourself in a position to be fast. But here's the reality, because that's just the fast part. The second part of this is tenacity. Because when you get a lead and you call them once and you call them within the first 5 minutes, you're still only going to get about a 48% contact rate. Because people are busy. Like, I'll tell you what I do. When somebody calls me and I don't recognize the number, I ignore it and I pray there's not a voicemail on the way. That's what I personally do. And so people, even if you call them back, even if they opted in, they ignore calls. But what happens is, if you're tenacious, if you actually use effort, if you actually call a lead twice and 3 and 4, what the data has shown is that about 6 follow-up attempts is the sweet spot. You can go from a 48% contact rate to a 93% contact rate just by following up 5 more times. Now, we look at that chart and we all go, wow, that makes sense, but how many times do we do it? How many times do we get a lead that's 3 days old that we hit snooze? We get a lead that we called twice and we give up and move on to the new leads. The best bankers are tenacious. They actually follow up a lot. But here's a quick tip that'll help everybody. Whether you're calling a friend or a colleague or a CEO or an internet lead, I want you guys to leverage a tip that I call the double dial. Like, when you get that call, when you call a lead and they don't pick up, it's a big mistake to do the voicemail or the text message. You're going to do that, but I would never do that until I called the second time right away. I want you guys to implement that immediately. Any lead you call that doesn't answer, hang up, call again. The double dial works, guys. Like, if you get that call and you miss it, because there's a lot of robocalls, there's a lot of auto calls, there's a lot of politician robo dials. But when somebody calls you twice in a row, back to back, you immediately, 1, think it's a person, 2, think it might be important. So at least do the double dial. But the optimal number of calls is 6. And I would be making all 6 of those calls in the first 48 hours. You got to treat this like a kidnapping. You got to treat this, you know what I'm saying? You got to treat this like when we get a new lead, we've got to go all in, fast and furious the first 2 days.
Hey, Chris, real quick, what are your thoughts on just a multi-channel approach where phone call, email, text, phone call, email, any take on, using a multi-channel,
Yeah, it's huge. It's called bursting. You have to do it. But here's the beauty is if you have the right systems in place, like at Curator, when we get a lead, we send a text message and we send an email without doing anything. So that way the salespeople can just make the calls. But if you don't have tools and systems that do that, after that second dial, you should absolutely send a text message and leave a voicemail. So that's called bursting. When you burst, and that's what I explained in my book is land, sea, and air, you have a better chance at winning the battle.
So my takeaway for everybody on this call, whether you have the tech or not, guys, you have the tech. You have a mobile phone. You can hit an email. You can hit a text. I always, my CRM doesn't do that. Guys, the best CRM is the one that you use. So it's always great to upgrade it, but I don't know any loan officers out there getting more than 3-5 leads a day. And I know a lot of loan officers only get 3-5 leads a week. So make sure you burst on them. Make sure you go after it. And really, if you're not getting this type of speed to lead, then you're not going to get the best conversion.
And Dave, if they don't pick up after the first or second normal attempt, this is where a video might make sense. Hey, I just wanted to see I'm an actual person. I'm not trying to hound you. I just hopefully can help you with a loan. So I'm a fan of that. The thing that's not on this chart, you can see how after attempt number 6, it isn't that it doesn't help. It's just that there's a diminishing return. If you actually follow up with the lead 10 times, they call the police. So just be careful there. Now, one of the things that I know we committed to at Quicken and that I think everybody on the call has to commit to if they want to make a lot of money in lending, you've got to commit to call blocks. Like when I worked at Quicken Loans, you basically are not allowed to leave your desk from 8 to 10 a.m. And you're not allowed to leave your desk from 4 to 6 p.m. And that wasn't an accident. That was because with all their technology, they were able to uncover, and companies like Salesforce and InsideSales.com have also looked into this, but those are the 4 hours per day where people answer their phone most frequently. So you don't work on your pipeline from 8 to 10. You don't worry about the appraisal that came in low from 8 to 10. And by the way, if you write a loan at 8:30, you don't stop the call block. You know what I mean? These are the things that you have to commit to if you're going to have a great career. But if you're busy and you're swamped and you can't call leads all day every day, or you're a small mortgage broker shop and you don't have all the tools Quicken has, at least look at this chart. 8 to 10, 4 to 6, and then Wednesdays and Thursdays. It makes sense. You're going to catch people on their way to work. You're going to catch people on their way home. It's going to be incredibly more difficult to catch them in the middle of the day. So a lot of people enjoy that chart. And if you guys are enjoying these stats, let us know in the chat. if you guys are getting some takeaways here, I'm about to get into the script, but I love to have kind of an interactive chat on GoToMeeting. If these tips are useful, if you're going to share this with your team, if you're committed to obeying the conversion code principles, let us know in the chat, because I always like to bring a lot of value. But ultimately,
real quick, so folks, also if you have questions for Chris, because we might have some time towards the end, and if we don't have time in the end, we'll make sure we get them answered, and we'll also have good topics for next time. If you've just got some a quote that Chris said, I've had a couple of people, they really liked your quote around, humans process, images 60,000 times faster. So also post your favorite takeaway. I want to make sure we get the most out of this.
Yeah, hopefully somebody picked up on the kidnapping reference. You hear that so often that it's the first 48 hours that matter the most. So in the book, I have a quote where I say, "Time destroys all things," and your ability to make money is being destroyed with every second that passes when a lead comes in. But ultimately, Dave, the point of speed and tenacity is so that we can use the script, because conversations create closings, not phone calls, not credit pulls. Conversations are what create closings and clients. And so what we're committed to in our company and Lou Pearlman's company, and I know at Quicken, if you were to walk up and down the aisles, you would see these scripts everywhere. You would see 8.5 by 14 double-sided paper with a simple to follow plug and play script. And it's funny how many people don't use a script. And for the people that don't use a script, now you can graduate into not using one. But I would almost guarantee you that the guys that Dave is interviewing that are in the top whatever percent of whatever, I would almost guarantee you they still have something in front of them, because you've got to write down stuff. If you're not writing stuff down throughout the call, you can't use it later in the call. And so you've got to be committed to having this in front of you. And what I'm going to do for the rest of the class here is break down each of the steps in what I call a perfect sales call. I'm going to go through rapid fire style. There's a whole book on this called The Conversion Code. But I'm going to go through each of these, because there's a science to sales just like there's a science to technology or marketing. And marketing gets all the cool acronyms. You think about marketing: cost per click, cost per lead, click-through rate, SEO, SEM. There's not a lot of acronyms in sales besides ABC, always be closing. So I thought, what if I can show people that there is a science to sales, and that you can create a repeatable framework so that more people say yes than say no. So that's what I'm going to walk you guys through. And the first step is what I call the pre-call stalk. Step one in the perfect sales call is the pre-call stalk. And I'm going to go a little interactive here. I'm going to hop out of the slides. And my name is Chris Smith, you guys. So let's say you had a lead named Chris Smith and you Googled it. This is going to be funny. You are going to end up, let's see how many results there are. There are almost 300 million results for my name. And I'm not a congressman, and I'm not in the NBA. You're going to see some stuff in here that's funny. But none of these are me. But what I learned how to do a while back is, if you have an internet lead, you have their email. So if you Google, as an example, my email address, chris@curator.com, instead of there being billions of results, there's only 10,000, and every result is now about me. So this is my about page, my website, this is my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Twitter, an article that I was written about on Inman News. So if you simply Google someone's email address, you will end up finding so much about them. Like if you went through to my LinkedIn and I was an internet lead, you're going to find a gold mine. You're going to see where I work. You're going to see all kinds of stuff, guys. So what we're looking here for in the pre-call stalk is we're looking for these little nuggets about the lead that we can make a part of our conversation. Now, the key is you don't have time to Google stuff all day. So what I've done is I use an app called Charlie app. And what this app does is it will take all that data and find it for me. So you can see that it's going to find where they work, connections we have in common. It's going to show any articles that they've been featured in. If we happen to have any common passions. Charlie app is great, and check this out. It will plug in to your calendar. I'm about to pull this up on you, Dave, just so you can see what it will do just by having it set up, because this is free to use, and you set it up once. But see how in my calendar now, because I know salespeople love their calendar, they don't love their CRM. But when I go in here and I see Dave Savage, I can open up this little briefing. Oops, they screwed up on that one. I'm already logged in. But you guys see this. Right in the calendar, it's going to find information about the people that I'm meeting with. And I showed you the screenshot a second ago, but that's called Charlie app, and I highly recommend it. Let us know in the comments if you like that. But the idea is that you're looking for some custom openings. Like when you call, let's say you got a mortgage lead and you have something like the address of the home, the value of the home, and the name of the lead. These little nuggets are critical in step 2, which is what I call the perfect first minute, because you're really just gathering that data from the lead intake sheet or from something like Charlie so that you can use it in your opening. So as an example, if I'm at Quicken and I'm calling a lead, if I say, hey, this is Chris, I'm calling from Quicken Loans, how's it going today? That might sound enthusiastic, and that's not a terrible opening, but compare that to using what I call hyper-personalization. If I said, hey, Susie, this is Chris Smith, I'm calling from Quicken Loans, I'm actually calling about your home on Cedar Drive that's valued at $400,000. How are you? Like those little nuggets that you bring in, when a realtor gets a lead from Zillow, if you know the bed and the bath and the price of the home they were interested in, you've got to bring that into your opening. Hey, I saw that you were looking at a house on Main Street that's listed for $380 with 3 bedrooms. How are you? When you actually add those little personalized nuggets to your first minute, what happens is they go, okay, I'm on the phone with the right person, because you can't guess that stuff. And remember, even if you're not cold calling, even if it's an internet lead for you that you actually bought or that you actually created, they're still getting inundated with telemarketers no matter what you do. So the first thing you do is you bring in some personalized data through the stalk. But the second thing, and I learned this actually way back at Lou Pearlman's company, a technique called gaining control. And this is something that's so huge, because what I'm trying to do in the first minute is I'm trying to figure out, is this lead legit or is this lead kicking tires? And sometimes that's hard to do at the very beginning of a call. So what I learned, and here's what we do is, hey, you basically tell the person after you do your quick little opening, I need you to grab a pen and paper. I've got some information about this mortgage that isn't available online. Or if you're a realtor, I've got information about this home that you can't find online. Can you please grab a pen and paper and let me know when you're ready? Now, that may sound silly in the modern era to have people grab a pen and paper, but what will happen, guys, is the serious people, the people like my wife, the people that are legit leads, the people that you really want to work with, if they're serious about doing a loan, they're going to grab a pen and paper. You could even just tell them, hey, I wanted to make sure you have my personal contact information in case we get disconnected. Please grab a pen and paper. Let me know when you're ready. And so we're trying to gain control psychologically over the caller. But the last step of this kind of perfect first minute, where you stalk them and you tell them to write something down, the last step is what I call ARPing. And ARPing is something that you guys are going to love, because I'm guessing no matter what you do, and a lot of you are saying, oh, I do a lot of this stuff already, Chris. No matter what you do, and when you get a lead, people typically will try to cut to the chase. They will use what I call a brick wall statement. And if you're in mortgage, it's almost the same thing every day. People say, I just want to know what the rates are. I just want to know what the rates are. How much did the rates go up, right? What is the interest rate? And what's challenging is if you were to just sit there and say the rates all day, if their rate is lower than today's rates, that's a quick call. That's not a conversation. That's not a customer. And so what you've got to do is you've got to come up with these things that we would call ARPs, which is acknowledging the brick wall statement, responding to the brick wall statement, and then pivoting around it. And I'll give you an example in mortgage. Oh, And again, things change. Your talk track on this can change, but what you're looking for are these little ARPs that work. Oh, you want to know what the interest rates are? Great question. I'll pull those up. For the last couple of years, they've been the lowest they've ever been. How long have you owned your home? So that is acknowledging what they say, responding to what they say without the direct answer, and then pivoting to what you want to say, which are qualifying questions and what I get into next, which is digging deep. So you acknowledge that they just want to know the rates. And this is where that non-visual, non-belly-to-belly kicks in. When somebody says, what are the rates? The first thing you have to do is say, oh, you'd like to know what the interest rates are? Great question. I'll pull those up for you. You have to do that acknowledgement. That's what a lot of people miss. And then you have to respond without responding. Thankfully, the rates have been the lowest they've ever been for the last 5 years, or the last, whatever it is, 2 years. But they're starting to move now. That's the response. How long have you owned your home? That's the pivot. So it's a simple technique, and what you're looking for is an ARP that's comfortable for you. And you're looking for an ARP that we call wet, something that works every time. So you gather intel through the pre-call stalk. You leverage that intel in your opening. You gain control by telling them to grab a pen and paper, and then you ARP around those brick wall statements. Guys, this is the science of selling. This is all in the first minute. That's 1 minute into the call. So hopefully your sales coaches, hopefully you guys are obsessing around these little micro moments in the call. Once we get around the opening, I'm going to cover a couple additional techniques, and then I'm going to get to how to close, because that is something that so many people struggle with. They don't know how to pitch, and they don't know how to close. But I want to go through a couple of the other techniques. The technique that you use right after you ARP is called the digging deep technique. When I was at Quicken Loans, they used to say, dig deep or go to sleep. Because if you're not willing to dig deep with the lead, you're not going to have any ammo for the pitch. You're not going to have any emotional reason to buy when you close. So digging deep is something that is really simple to do, but a lot of salespeople don't do it. You're going to have on your script questions you have to ask. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the condition of your home is? When's the last time you refinanced? How much do you think your home's worth, right? There's going to be questions on your script that you have to ask. But the best salespeople, they listen. And then when they get an answer to that question, they ask another one. I'll tell you guys a quick story. I was at Quicken Loans one time shadowing a call, and a nice older lady called in, and she was talking to one of the bankers, and she said, hey, I need a home equity line of credit. This is back when those were actually easy to do. And she said, oh, great. What's it for? Like that's what's on the script. Oh, you need money? What's the purpose? Like you can put that on the script. And the lady said, well, we need $50,000 because we want to build a deck on the back of our house. And at that point in my life, I'm sitting here immediately thinking, that's an expensive deck. Like, is that going to be made out of platinum? Are you going to put an elevator up in this thing? $50,000 just seems like a big, expensive investment. And that's what the best salespeople do. They hear something like that and they pounce on it. You know, if somebody says, we need to save $300 on our mortgage or else we're not moving forward, why $300? Well, we sat down and did our budget. What part of your budget was it that caused you the biggest challenge? You know, well, we probably shouldn't have bought the car we bought. What kind of car is it? What year is it? How long have you owned it? Guys, that's called digging deep. The best way to think about it is act like a little kid. Every time they answer the questions on your sheet, ask a couple follow-ups that aren't on your sheet. That is called digging deep. Because what we're doing is we're writing everything down that they're saying, and then we're going to use that in step 7, the 5 yeses. We're going to use that in the feature benefit tie down in step 8 when we actually do our pitch. So there's a science to this. I'm going to go through step 4, and then I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I want to make sure I'm conscious of the time we have today. I wish I could teach everything about sales in 1 hour, but it's tough. But what I'm going to get into now, guys, is building trust. And this is something that it's one of my favorite quotes of all time from Zig Ziglar. And what he says is, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they will buy from you. And a lot of you are good at getting people to like you over the phone, but there's another level which is called trust. And what I found is that at Lou Pearlman's company and at Quicken Loans, they had figured out how to quickly yet thoroughly build trust with a lead over the phone. And you should build trust with referrals too. You know, one of the things I tell my team at Curator is you've always got to take it from the top. I don't care if it's a referral, an internet lead, or your brother. You owe it to the lead to walk them through this whole process. Professional salespeople take it from the top, and they do every step every single time. There's a great quote at Quicken Loans. Every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses. I always remember that one, even years later. But the way that these companies build trust is they don't go super deep. They use a technique called co-branding and a stat. So if you look at step 4, 1 plus 1 equals trust. Co-branding plus a statistic equals trust. Here's an example. I'll give an example for Dave in Mortgage Coach. If Dave is trying to present Mortgage Coach to the real estate industry, and he's talking to a big room of realtors that don't know him as well as the mortgage industry, he shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about Dave or Mortgage Coach, because that's not going to quickly build trust. But Dave knows Tom Ferry. Dave knows people like Gary Keller. Dave knows people like me, people that in the industry already have a lot of trust. So if Dave were to try to pitch, he would say, you know, Mortgage Coach is highly recommended by Tom Ferry, Gary Keller, and Chris Smith, but it's also being used by over 100,000 mortgage brokers right now. Like, I don't know the stats. I'm making all of this up. But the idea is that it's a co-brand, and then it's a powerful statistic. Like if I'm a realtor and I have Zillow reviews, or if I'm a mortgage company and I have Yelp reviews, that sort of third-party trust, like this isn't about the Better Business Bureau anymore. This is about, like at Curator, we do Facebook ads, and we manage over $5 million a year in ads. So we don't talk about Curator and Chris when we build trust. We talk about Facebook and the millions of dollars that we manage. Even all the way back to Lou Pearlman. I didn't get on the phone and say Lou Pearlman's a genius. I said, are you familiar with the Backstreet Boys, right? That's a co-brand. Okay, 67,000 people want to come to this event, and there's only 1,200 spots. That was the stat. So the best way to build trust is to co-brand with a popular consumer brand, and then to drop a powerful statistic. You like that, Dave?
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. The stat we would probably use, and we're used by 34% of the nation's top loan officers, but that's a takeaway, man. I wrote it down.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Co-brand and a stat. Co-brand and a stat. And one thing I'll say is sometimes people try to build so much trust that they sound like they're a scam. You have to be confident. Hey, we have sold 300 homes in the last 2 years, and we have 89 five-star reviews on Zillow. So I want you to feel comfortable with the person you're on the phone with. That's how you build trust. Now, I'm going to jump ahead here, guys, and I'm going to cover steps 7 through 11, because this is the pitch, and I don't want to end the call without being able to walk you guys through what I call a perfect pitch. And the step 7, 5 yeses, it's actually a perfect continuation of digging deep, because when you're asking all the questions that you would have asked earlier, you would have asked something like your current loan amount. So let's say the current loan amount was $370. And then let's say they said that their current interest rate was 4.5%. And they said that their home's value was $475,000. And then they said the husband got a raise, right? And then they said the kid's going to school, right? So this is the kind of intel that I'm picking up when I'm digging deep earlier. So what you do when you start your pitch, the beginning of a perfect sales pitch is called the 5 yeses. And I want you guys to try this with me. I want you to start nodding your head yes. So try to nod your head yes 6 times in a row, and then try to switch it to no. It's incredibly difficult. And so what we're doing is we're trying to get these people to say yes to questions that aren't, will you hire me right now, so that they just get that yes, 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 and we're kind of getting that momentum. So I would say something like, hey, so earlier when we talked, you said that your loan amount right now is $370, right? Right. Okay, great. And right now your interest rate's 4.5%. Is that right? Yes. Okay, great. And you think your home's worth 475, but you said we should probably use 460 to be safe, right? Right. And the reason that we're on the phone is your husband got a raise, and so you're looking to go from a 30-year to a 15-year. Is that right? Right. Okay, great. You're also open to buying a home soon because your kids are going off to school, right? Right. Okay, great. Here's what we can do for you. Guys, I can't tell you how powerful the 5 yeses is. The example I would use would be, picture yourself at a big table at a restaurant, and everybody's ordering all this different stuff, and the server doesn't have a pen and paper. The server's not writing down the order. They're going person by person, and they're trying to memorize medium rare over here, these sides over here. You would lose confidence very quickly. And so again, because a lot of these conversations happen on the phone, reading back to them what they said earlier as a way to start your pitch is quite simply letting them know that you are listening. The 5 yes techniques, guys, is a home run. But then we get into what's called FBT.
Chris, hey, before you jump off of that, so folks, I want you to think about the Mortgage Coach video that you're sending to the family afterwards. And we've always said, make sure you say their name back to them. Make sure you say back the referral partner's name so that you're honoring them. And then you go into the goals. And in Chris's case, let them know you heard them. Repeat back what was important to them. So key takeaway for the Mortgage Coach Total Cost Analysis video, take good notes. I would love to make sure you guys are taking action on this. So anyways, I'll assign a homework assignment at the end. Chris, you keep rocking it out.
Cool. I hope they're enjoying it. So the last part of this is the pitch itself. And I remember, being a younger guy. And by the way, if you're enjoying this call and you enjoy sales in general, you should watch Glengarry Glen Ross. You should watch Boiler Room. You should watch The Wolf of Wall Street. And what you'll start to hear is you'll start to hear a lot of these techniques. You'll start to hear what I'm about to explain, which is called FBT. And when Alec Baldwin comes in and he says ABC, always be closing, he wasn't kidding. When you're pitching someone, it's incredibly dangerous to basically pitch, 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 close. A perfect pitch, it consists of what's called feature, benefit, tie down. And that is sort of the real world version of always be closing. So as an example, if I'm Quicken Loans and we have a partnership with QuickBooks and TurboTax, and we can monitor your loan so that if the rates ever get better, you'll be notified instantly for a no-cost refi. Like you guys all have your features down. Everybody knows their features. You know what I mean? But what people don't usually do is they don't explain the benefit to the consumer of the feature and then get them to agree that they like the feature. And you do typically in a perfect pitch what I call about 4 to 6 FBTs. Feature, benefit, tie down. Hey, one of the reasons you should work with our company is because we have the loan tracking software. The benefit of that software is that if the interest rates get better after this call, it'll notify us and you immediately. You don't want to regret doing a loan now and then the rates going down later, right? Right. Okay, great. That's why we have that feature. Next feature, right? So guys, a pitch is feature, benefit, tie down. Feature, benefit, tie down. Feature, benefit, tie down. And as you do that, you're hearing over and over that they like what your features are. And because they say, yes, yes, that does make sense. You're right, Chris. Okay, that makes sense. Then it's easy to now hear from them when it's time to close. So think about the features that make working with you great, but then write down and practice the consumer benefit. Like we have a client, her name's Julie Farmer, and she's in Savannah, Georgia. Just a nice lady that sells homes. And she said, Chris, I love those FBTs. She said, I tell them what it is. I tell them how it helps them. And then I ask them, do you agree? Guys, that's sales. You have to speak in tie downs. That's what the best salespeople do. So please remember feature, benefit, tie down. And what happens is as you do that, they say, well, yeah, I like that feature. Yeah, that does make sense, Chris. Yeah, that is right. Okay, great. Well, now it's time to close. because at a certain point they're more emotionally bought in than the cost of doing business, and now I got to do my job and close. And I'll never forget my sales coach at Lou Pearlman's company. He gave us this really long talk about the lion and the lamb. And he explained that, you know, when you get to the position where it's time to close, there's only two choices. You can be the lion or the lamb. And the lamb asks questions when it's time to close. And the lion just eats the meal. And so what happens is at the end of a bad pitch, what a lot of salespeople do is they'll get to the end of the pitch and they'll say, okay, great. So what do you think? So can I send the paperwork over? So are we doing this? The worst thing you could ever do in the history of sales at the end of your pitch is to ask a question. Because you do this for a living. So as you tie them down with your mini closes, and as you realize, okay, they're in, what you want to do instead is step 9, which is a transitioning closing statement. And what I've learned is that when you get them all the way excited and it's time to close, the worst thing you can do is ask a question. What you want to do is transition and say, okay, great, here's what happens next. You want to start foreshadowing the next steps of working together. And I know at Quicken, I'll give you guys the talk track that we would use. Hey, what we're going to do now is we're going to run the loan through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and make sure we get a full approval. We're going to send you all over all the paperwork, get you the good faith estimate. The other thing we're going to have to do is get the home appraised so that we can find out if it's worth what you said. And we would ask, is it better for you to get the home appraised during the day or in the early evening? And that is called a trial close. So as you're foreshadowing the next steps, as you're talking about what's going to happen next in the process, as you're being the lion and assuming that you can eat the lamb, you're going to take a hard stop and ask a trial question. You're going to give a trial close. Hey, by the way, when the appraiser comes out, should we send them during the week or on the weekend? And if they answer that question, that means it's actually time to close. And then you're going to go to the last step called the slot close, right? And all that is, guys, is even when you know it's time to close, even when you get the trial close and they answer that, you still don't ever want to give them a question that ends in no. So the slot close will be, okay, great. So you want the appraiser to come out on the weekend? I'll make a note of that. And as far as the deposit to pay for the appraisal, did you want to use a credit or a debit card? Did you want to use a Visa or a MasterCard? Did you want to use a business or a personal card? That's called a slot close. If you're trying to get an in-person appointment, same thing. Can I come over tomorrow at 1 or 3 to chat? Can I come over tomorrow at 10 or 11 to talk? Which is better? That's called a slot close. So number 7 through number 11 on the screen, guys, it is so incredibly important. You start with the 5 yeses. You get through the feature benefit tie down. You transition to the close and foreshadow the next steps. You throw out the litmus test. You throw out the trial close. And then you hit them with the slot close to finish it up. There's a science to sales. And I would love some feedback in the chat if you guys have enjoyed this talk today. We're going to do a little Q&A, Dave. I got a couple of minutes here. But I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. If you guys want a free copy of my first book, I have 2 best-selling books. The first one is called People Work, How to Run a People-First Business in a Digital-First World. The foreword was actually written by Gary Vaynerchuk, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. But I wanted to make that free to everyone listening. All you have to do is text my first name, Chris, to the number on the screen, 917-925-7111. If you text my first name to the number on the screen, I'm going to give you guys a free copy of my first book. That's all automated. It'll send you the link right away. The other thing I wanted to do, and I know a lot of you have sales scripts, and I know the Mortgage Coach provides great sales scripts, but if anybody listening goes to Audible, which my book's on Audible, or Amazon if you want the hard copy, If you do purchase the conversion code on either of those two platforms and you email your receipt to my brother, his email address is steve@curator.com. If you do that, he will give you the sales scripts that I showed on the screen a couple times here. So it's incredibly difficult to extract a sales script from a book. So we actually have the two-sided 8.5 by 14 scripts that you need, and we will send you those. All you have to do is send your receipt to steve@curator.com and tell them that you were on the Mortgage Coach call. That's where you heard about the offer. The last thing is my company is called Curator. We help people with lead generation and lead conversion, and we are opening up what we do to the mortgage industry later this year. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Love it. And by the way, we had a number of people ask about that, when is Curator coming to the mortgage space? So folks, we're a big fan. Chris, super appreciate the value that you brought to today's call. My personal favorite quote was just the whole concept of people process.
That was quick, Dave.
Yeah, man, we don't mess around over here.
Real time, baby.
I've already added that to pictures. I mean, little co-branding here. Chris Smith.
Execution. That's what it's all about, Dave. Execution is worship. That's what Dan Gilbert says. Execution is worship. I love that you're already executing.
Yeah, we're already executing. The team loves it. Folks, we're going to have Chris Smith back, so do put in your questions. Last time we had him, we talked about Facebook. We talked about how to build a brand, how to create leads, how you can help your realtors drive Facebook conversations. Today we talked about conversion. Make sure that you've got a process. I can tell you without any exceptions whatsoever, the best of the best have a consistent system, a consistent process to deliver value. They ask great questions, they listen, they go deep, they provide a presentation of value that's shareable, that emotionally connects. I mean, every single interview I've ever done with a top loan officer, that's there. So for those of you that are asking Chris and I to repeat things that we said today, this call will be added to our YouTube channel. So right here, Tuesday call, where Josh is from last week, we'll see Chris in a few hours. I want to remind folks about our all-time best calls. And by the way, Chris, you don't know this. While you didn't beat out Simon Sinek for number one, your call was added to our all-time great list, and we love it. We can't wait to have you hear more.
Hey, right by Dave Ramsey. That's not a bad spot to be.
Yeah, right. And number one realtor in America is behind you in our playlist. These real world scripts, guys. This is me interviewing badass loan officers that are killing it right now and bringing scripts to you. So talk to Dan Keller, Josh Meadows, all of these guys are among the top loan officers in the country. This particular video, I just want to give as a homework assignment to everyone, because inventory is the biggest challenge right now. And this is where Danny is teaming up with realtors. He's saying, hey, who are your 10 or 15 most likely buyers to move up? All right, good. He's getting some information, just like Chris taught us, what is some key facts that he can integrate into the conversation. And then they're making a pitch. They're putting together a move-up analysis using Mortgage Coach, him and the realtor on a video, and then they're making a pitch to move up to a family, and they're driving deals. So want to make sure you guys take action on that. Well, hey, Chris, I want to honor you because I know you've got to hit to the airport. Let's see how everybody likes the call. I can't imagine anybody is going to give us less. Well, it looks like this, just looking at how you're getting scored here, among the most liked calls in a long time, brother. So thank you for wowing the Mortgage Coach community. Any parting words of wisdom in your last minute of the call?
No, I really appreciate it. I came from the cubicle. I came from dialing for dollars. I understand the struggle you guys go through. It really is about, once you get this down, it's really about mindset and effort, right? Once you've got the scripts, once you've got the tools like Mortgage Coach, once you've got the processes and people in place, the real work starts, because now it's about what? It's about effort and mindset. And it's a lot easier to have a lot of effort and a positive mindset when you're making a lot of money. And hopefully I helped a few people do that today. Thanks for your time, Dave. I appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it. Again, I just want to echo that. That's the other commonality. When I talk to the best of the best, they're positive, their attitude comes out, and their enthusiasm. When you listen to my interviews with Jeremy Forcier, I mean, his number one secret weapon is his energy. So take inventory. What's your energy? Let's have an awesome day, awesome week. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot, Chris.